Stop the music.
Music is the king of everything. It's like God, it's the spirit of art. So I think musically, I think it's important for me to figure it out, how it sounds, what is the beats, where to cut, where the drums come, where the solo comes. And I think if you have that, at least for me, it's crucial. Hola, mi nombre es Alejandro González Iñárritu y en estos momentos vamos a platicar sobre algunos de los films que he hecho en mi carrera. Revenant.
He's afraid. He knows how far I came for him. Same as that elk, when they get afraid, they run deep into the woods.
I prepared that film in 2011. I started scouting and gutting and storyboarding and started working with visual effects. And I was very excited about the experience to allow myself to go to the nature. And then I realized that there is no that kind of romantic thing of losing yourself in nature. No, it's a war. You're in war with nature to make it to work what you need, you know. Leonardo, he knew how difficult it would be physically and the commitment to live in Calgary for 6 months and to go through all that physical thing. I took him a little bit for him to really jump in. Once he jumped in, it was the best collaborator that I could have. The most brave and passionate and perfectionist, and he understands filmmaking. He has worked with great directors, so he has been so long since he was 17 years that he understands the whole jambalaya. The conditions were massive, so you need a special wardrobe. You need ridiculously, this wood and carpet for the feet of every horse. So the horse were completely warm and nice, and we all were suffering, but the animal guys were taking care that every single horse has almost socks, you know what I mean? The first battle, the physical scenes that he went through were extremely precise, physically and actually dangerous, because if you do a bad move, the choreography with this kind of stunts, when you are doing battles with such a speed and camera movements that are so precise, again, this is not cut. There are not pieces. These are long pieces of 7 minutes with running, choking, this, that. You put yourself at risk. And sometimes people get a little crazy in the films, and sometimes stunts or people it can go wrong very easily. And I never see him afraid or complaining or afraid of, this horse is passing very close to me, or this powder is exploding, or this guy is very tough. He actually was embracing the moment and allowing himself to be exposed, and perfectly in time and with truthfulness in his eyes and emotion, which is not easy. He was not about me, what about me? He didn't care. He was like seeing the whole thing. That's what I'm saying. He's a filmmaker that understands that it's everybody is just a piece of something that is bigger than any of us. So that was great for me. Birdman.
We were the real thing, Reagan. We had it all. We gave it away.
Breathing in.
We handed these posers the keys to the kingdom.
Breathing out.
You listening to me?
I shot that film in 19 days, less than 4 weeks, and it was crazy. Keaton was kind of the first thing and obvious, because obviously I love Michael Keaton. I think he's an amazing actor, and then as a person I was able to meet him, and he's a beautiful human being. But I think obviously there was some resonance about what happened to him and the Batman thing. There was similarities, let's put it. It was not about Michael Keaton, but it's about actors that suddenly get into and swallow into the kind of universe of superheroes, and then they regret, or they are completely transforming their perception. And it's hard to get back to be like a prestigious actor of theater in New York. Edward Norton is a great theater actor in New York. He wanted to make this character so well, because he told me, Alejandro, I know this guy. I know very well. I can be that guy.
Okay. No, forget that.
Okay.
Just stay with me.
Yeah.
I'm the wrong person to ask, he
Right.
says, but what is that? What's the intention in that? Is he fed up with the subject, so he's changing it? Is he deflecting guilt over the marriage? And here's the thing, you've got 4 lines after that all say the same thing. I didn't even know the man. I only heard his name mentioned in passing.
I think it was the first time in my life where I was in a set and I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I was ruining scenes because I was like, because these guys make me laugh so much and I enjoy it so much. But there was a moment that we were rehearsing the scene where for the first time Michael invited Edward as a character. And then he said, what about if we do that? And they are going around a little table and he's trying to direct him and to propose. And obviously, this prick, the Edward Norton character, is saying, what about that? And he starts to manipulate the director, you know. And we were doing that, and I was, as a director, telling them what I needed or what I thought was good. What about if we do that? The camera will do. And then Edward was telling me, what about if we do that? What about it? Anyway, after 70 times that he was trying to tell me what I should do, I started laughing. I said, do you know what's happening? What? You are exactly doing what the character is doing in the scene. So he realized that we started laughing about how a mirror in a mirror in a mirror we were playing there, and it was so fun. The reason I think I got into this different kind of approach or design of making films was because of need. Sometimes the restrictions and limitations are your best allies creatively. So I was so reduced in money. I didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough time. The St. James Theatre only allow us to shoot for 5 days because they are always booked all year, for years. But there was a coincidence that just a theater play through the other was like a 5 days hiatus, and we have this open thing. Chivo and I rehearse every movement, every step, every rhythm, even the measures of the walls, everything, the light study, where the window will be, all the needs. And so the stage, all the bowels of the theater were designed and built outside New York. But when he comes out of the Times Square, there was no way to design or. I have money for 30 extras, and that's it. And I could not close Times Square. I need to shoot it with people and not not at 3 a.m. And one day, Chivo and I were walking to have breakfast on Saturday, and I saw this military band of these kids playing super cool with some cool dance. And everybody was watching them because it was very noisy and cool rhythm. And I got this idea. I said, this is exactly what we need. We need something to distract the tourist, in Times Square, and let's just get there. And then while they are watching these kids, we will be walking with these guys. And it worked. I don't know how it worked because I thought it would be Michael Keaton in underwear. It would be 1,000 people looking to the camera and saying stupid things, and everybody got seeing the skit. And if you see the film, it's exactly that. We just have 30 extras and we distract them with like bees with honey while we were getting away with murder. The people say, why is in one shot? And it was because because this is again happening in the consciousness of a person dealing with his own ego and his super ego. And I want the audience to be in a radical point of view and to live exactly what he was going through. And then, because I will not have editing, and a comedy is made of editing, I needed something to guide me, again, music and rhythm. And I invite Antonio Sanchez. I'm a huge fan of Pat Metheny, the musician. We became friends. Antonio, a Mexican drummer, has been his drummer for many years. And I said, what about if you just start getting, and I have some ideas, and I knew the sequences. So he and I got into a studio in New York like 3 weeks before we start shooting. And I was describing to him the images, like the sequence. In this one is a little soft, in this one is a little emotional, this one is very hard. And he was just improvising jazzy. And before start shooting, I got a lot of tracks that informed me during the things about that. And it was kind of pre-editing element for me to be getting, and the actors getting the rhythm and the vibe. Babel was about these 4 stories of characters that will never be they will never be physically in the same place. They will never know each other's existence, but no matter how, whatever actions they are doing at that time, it will change and affect the life of each of all the other three other characters they didn't know, which is kind of the butterfly kind of theory. So that was an extreme kind of exercise with no physicality, differently from Amores, Perros, and 21 Grams, and about the impossibility of communication, right? And that's why the Babel title came. Like it's the Tower of Babel as this punishment that we got. And I think we are living now. I think the internet can be kind of that we are supposedly connected, but we speak different language, and we think that we are completely disassociated. Half of that film was shot in Morocco, and we were shooting in very, very, very humble, poor towns near Ouarzazate. So the experience of shooting those scenes there with the non-actors, all of those Moroccan characters were non-actors that I trained with them, and then you are putting all these people that has never seen a camera, and with Kate Blanchett to perform the veterinarian and all that scenes that were very intense, where she's bleeding, and all those circumstances that I was basically exposed to, and exposing all these actors and all the crew, that we need to achieve some truthfulness about that. It was an extremely beautiful experience, challenging one, but at the same time was informing while I was doing that I was in Babel. The language was not helping to get what I needed, and it was just emotional things that were able to get these guys to understand what I was needed. And once they get into the emotion, it was amazing. But the language, the words were useless, and that was super interesting about it, that it was just about the emotional exercise or an image that was triggered to them. I remember there was this guy that was supposedly the guy that shot to Kate, and he has an amazing face, like a mysterious guy, but when he laughed, he was with no tooth, and he was the most sweet, almost little kid, but he was an old man. And he couldn't cry, and he supposedly has to cry in the moment that the police arrive. And I have this incredible actress that is Hiam Abbas, which is Palestinian, and she was helping me to translate to them. And suddenly Hiam said something about her mother. And apparently he never went to his mother buried. And in the moment that he got that image and that memory, and we could penetrate that, boom! And a burst of crying, and it was truthful, and then we start shooting. And then he couldn't stop. So I said, okay, we finished. So what I'm saying, it was very beautiful how emotions are the universal language, Amores, Perros. By Guillermo Arriaga, I developed with him for 3 years, and we talk endlessly about, first of all, the different relations between Chivo, which is the old man, whose family is the dogs. He lives with this family of dogs, and the affection that he feels for them. And then you have these other characters, which in a way, it's a family dog that suddenly turns to be a great fighter. And then you have other guy, which is basically the dogs are utilitarian to make money and to savage them, to destroy them, to use them as warriors. So yes, there's a different attachment to dogs or animals as in real life happened. The difficulty was how I could make those relations feel real. So we have a lot of months in advance with a great trainer, Larry Casanova was called. And this guy, he was an animal lover, and he trained all these animals, and he got these street dogs I put Emilio Echeverria, the actor of Chivo, to really spend months with these guys in order that when he walks, the dogs were really attached to him. So you can see that in the film. And then obviously Gael, Garcia, Bernal, or the other actor, they were terrified about dogs. And these dogs were real fight dogs, that are super difficult to control because they are beasts that they can really bite you. And we have several events that were very close to have an accident, but they have to overcome their fear. I think every film until Birdman, I shot it chronologically by the script, because for me it was very important to be understanding and having the opportunities to maybe shift things depending on how things were evolving, and to have the actors understanding their own journey in a chronological order, very radical, even when it was a nightmare for producers and locations. But I think for me has been crucial to make a film in a chronological order, to be able to be growing with it. 21 grams.
How'd it go?
Not good, Reverend. In one ear, out the other.
Be patient. All it takes is one sheep and 1,000, Jack. Come on.
Afternoon, Reverend. Hey, Wolf, you still having that birthday party Wednesday?
My place, Bubba.
We were developing this script, and there was this characteristic of the role that Benicio del Toro played, and there was this religious relation with faith and the way this character was feeling, and I felt that it was very much into these possibilities of shooting the South of the United States, where sometimes religion can get kind of very passionate and reductive in some way, that the relation is like, I'm good, I'm gonna be good, I'm bad, I'm gonna be punished. It was the first city in Memphis that I touched. I embarked myself when I was 17 years in a boat, in a cargo boat, and that was the first city that I hit in the United States through the Mississippi. So anyway, a lot of things was coincide that to make my first American film there. So in a way it was not planned, but everything started just to point to that direction. And I find myself in Memphis for 6 months shooting this film. And I remember that even talking in English, for me, my English is bad, but at that time it was worse. So for me to explain, I had to have surgery after, because my vocal cords, I was using it differently, because when you speak English, you have to use differently your cords, and they was raspy. So I got into a surgery. At that time, you know, for me, the eyes and the features of somebody is the story of somebody, is the map, is the emotional map, as powerful as any landscape. You know, you can really see a lot of the past, a lot of the fears, a lot of the joy, a lot of the complexity of human being. If you point it out in the right direction with the right lighting, there's a lot to be revealed in one close-up. And there's nobody better than operating the camera handheld, which is very difficult, than Rodrigo Prieto, because he's a painter. You know, the problem with handheld camera is if it's overused, it's already kind of too overused. So there's no reason why to move that. So you just get nauseous about it, or there's no reason. But Rodrigo, in a way, you know, every movement of the actor, every reason to be moved, he moved, or every reason to be stay, he stayed. And we were shooting all the time with 40 millimeters lenses, which was my favorite one at that time. I think Amores, Perros, and that one, I think we shot it in 40 millimeters all the time, which for me, kind of that's where the vision is. These films were much more about the chances of improvisation and things, and again, capturing with the camera. Very natural, very, 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 very raw. Beautiful.
¿Qué tal? Nosotros, acabo de ver a la chinaza que quería venirse para acá.
¿Dónde lo viste?
En fondo, y encima me lo niega el cabrón, le tuve que mandar de vuelta para abajo. ¿Dónde está el cheque, Mamadou? Joder, digo, pones orden, ecueme, o esto se va a la mierda. Te lo he dicho 1000 veces, no se puede vender aquí. Aquí arriba lo tenemos prohibido. Joder, ¿entiendes?
I think this film reflects a lot of where I was at that time. As a person, you know, I was in a very low kind of thing. I was really seeing all these immigration things going on in Europe, like all these African people completely thrown out in the streets, where all these incredible rich cultures are not allowing them. So as an immigrant, I always have been, as in Babel on that, or Carne y Arena, the virtual reality thing that I did about immigration crossing the border, is a theme that maybe because I'm an immigrant is always very close. So I was observing kind of those kind of things. And I was thinking about death. I was turning 50 years old, and I think that hit me. So it's a film that is very deep and personal. It's dark. I'm very proud of it. When it came out, it was trash. It was a disaster. Now it seems that a lot of people say, oh, it's your best film. And I say, well, sometimes films takes time to really, you know, breathe. For me, the exercise here was I have never made a film about one character. And for me, it was terrifying to say, now I have just one character in one film, a narrative that is chronological and much more conventional. The Bardem character, in a way, was for me inspiring. This father trying to get care of other peoples and help the immigrate and help their kids and try to get through challenges and being thinking about the others. I start playing with elements that were not real. If we could see the emotion of somebody, how they will look, what are the elements that can be manifested there? So I start playing with that super encounter of the father at the end. And again, it's because maybe my age started inviting me to think about what am I gonna leave here. Bardo.
Es raro estar aquí.
¿Aquí dónde? ¿En la playa?
En México.
No sé de qué hablas.
Sí sabes.
No, pues no te entiendo. Aquí están tus primos, tus tíos.
Por eso.
¿Por eso qué?
I have never worked with this kind of material. In a way that I closed my eyes, I recouped some things that were emotionally important, and there was not necessarily truth. That's why the false chronicle of a handful of truth. Actually, things that I do not understand. So all these things for me was a way to get some events or some personal, intimate things and some collective memories of the things that has made us as Mexicans. I'm bringing there and then lying down. I said, holy shit, I don't know what to do with this. It's a story with no story, but at the same time, I think through fiction in a way and through lie about them and through really that you make, it's a way to heal. It's a way to put light in the darkness. I lived in Mexico 35, 36 years, let's say. So it's my city, it's my town. Obviously, 21 years has passed, so things has changed. It's not the same when I left. But at the same time, it's like an all new friend that you know very well, that you haven't seen in years, and you connect in 1 second. So that's very inspiring. And especially the sound of the city. There's something very beautiful about the soundtrack of Mexico City and the smells. That's what I miss much more. When you live in the United States, you miss that cacayanga, as we said. The relation between Mexico and the United States, our stories are completely blended, right, in the last 200 years. But it's a complicated one. And it has been friendly, but very contradictory and very different, with different sides. And there's a lot of open wounds, let's put it that way. And that, the Mexican-American War, as they call it, it was 175 years ago, and it was a very traumatic experience because where I shoot it is the Castillo de Chapultepec, the Chapultepec Castle that was built by the Spanish in the 1600s. And you can tell the story of Mexico basically there because later, that's where I think the American militaries came in at the end of the war, and they took over and they slaughtered all these little kids. And then this mythology appears that the Niños Héroes, which is kind of a myth that has been built in the narrative of the heroic act they did, but everybody knows that is not true. But in a way, I want to approach this with sense of humor, of how ridiculous both sides of the story, one denying the fact that it was actually an invasion, that they, that time they took half of our country for 15 million pesos. And the way we told our story in our side too is a little bit ridiculous, So in a way, I'm questioning the narratives of both sides with humor in kind of a dream state. And the execution was extremely difficult. I think more difficult than the Revenant. To close the city at the center, nobody has seen downtown like that because this is the heart of the city. All that sequence where he is walking at night and there's the sun goes down in the middle of the city with all these people because there's 120,000 disappearances in Mexico in democracy in the last 10 years, which is kind of how you explain that by I wanted just to, with an image, what we feel about it, how it feels to be a possible victim of that with no reason. and the sun goes down, and all that part that he's walking at night is a day for night shooting, which is a technique that is used, but we need to have a very precise position of the sun and close every street, and has that kind of moonlight sensation. So everything we have to really analyze every day to understand what is the light position to get exactly in the top of the buildings, a little spread of that light. So again, it requires a lot of thought in every shot. We shot it in Zócalo, which is exactly where the Aztec Empire was there. So all the pyramids were destroyed, and those pyramids are the stones of the cathedral. So in a way, it was for me important to be shooting those scenes in the real locations. It was a reinterpretation, and actually even with humor too, about things that has been open wounds with maybe not answered yet.